do all of our firefighters make six-figure incomes?
Yeah, I would say that's probably safe. It's probably pretty close by the time you add overtime in and everything else. It's probably right there.
There's one right.
Chief Roberts, I've heard this argument before at your board meetings about, you know, the fact that most of your calls are medical calls. Is that correct?
That's correct.
If I have a medical emergency at my house, I want an ambulance to get there as quickly as possible. I don't want to wait for a 2 or 3 ton fire truck to drive up Wilson Boulevard while I'm having a serious incident. That's what I want to see first at my house, not a fire truck with water and jaws of life. And I feel that the department does not put a priority on the ambulance service because you're firemen. And you'd rather have fire trucks than ambulances. And that's what I see wrong about the mismanagement of our fire department. We need medical help and we need it there quickly, not to wait for a fire truck to get there and the ambulance to show up later.
Well, Bob, I think you must have missed a piece of my presentation.
No, I heard it.
Dorado Hills staffs all of our engines with paramedics. They have everything on that.
Engines take forever to get to the call.
That's why they're stationed close to your neighborhoods throughout the 4 different departments. It's very unfeasible to put ambulances all over the county. We barely keep the 8 ambulances busy that we have now. Dorado Hills Medic 85 is the 5th busiest out of the 8 medic units we have. It's not financially responsible to put them all over the county. It just doesn't work. And they're very limited with what they can do. It's much better to put a paramedic on an engine with all the gear, with the exception of the gurney, and get them there as fast as possible to start advanced life support. And then have that ambulance show up and then take you to the hospital if needed.
Okay. Pete?
I'm still Pete Jacob. Dick Callahan couldn't be here because he's out of town, but he did advise me, and those of us that know Dick believe him to be a fairly honorable person, that he met with you and Connie, who's the treasurer or controller, following the last Tea Party meeting, and that the 3 of you agreed that, or the 2 of you, which was more important, agreed that Dick's numbers were basically right. Is that true? Because they came from your budget.
On some of the, on some of the issues.
All of them.
No,
All of them.
no.
Chief. Okay.
No, all of Dick's numbers weren't right. Like I showed you, he pulled some stuff out of the grand jury report.
Well, forget the grand jury. How about all the stuff that came out
That
of
was
the
the
budget?
basis for the whole argument.
Well,
but-
I'd be embarrassed about the grand jury report as well, but an awful lot of Dick's information came from your budget. Is it true or is it not true, based on your budget, that the average El Dorado Hills Fire personnel total compensation in your budget, not the grand jury, is $202,000 for this year?
That is not true.
It's your budget. It's divided by your numbers.
If all of the overtime was spent, and that includes sending,
I'm
listen,
talking about your budget, Chief.
our budget is the overtime included in there. If we were to send units down to LA for all of the money that we've got budgeted in that pool of overtime, and we spend all the money in the JPA overtime for the ambulance, and we spend all the money that's in the budget for El Dorado Hills Fire Department for sick, vacation, or work comp injuries, then yeah, you probably could get to about that number. But that's a lot of ifs, and that's, again, the overtime that covers to make sure that those engines are staffed and available and ready to respond at any time.
So it's a fairly accurate statement, though, to say that the total compensation for our guys and gals is about $200,000.
No, because it fluctuates all the time, and very rarely do we ever even use a lot of that overtime figure. And what they simply did is they just took a total budgeted overtime figure, and we budget $250,000 in overtime just for state reimbursed overtime. And that's a good point, is that when we send out any units on a strike team, when they're gone for 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks down in LA or sometimes up in the Redding area, we had some just recently. When those engines are sent out there, we are actually being reimbursed by the state on an Office of Emergency Services mutual aid agreement. That money comes back to the department, and we get reimbursed for that. But that is overtime that we budget, don't always use. Matter of fact, the last 2 years, we haven't used any of it. This year, we did use some because the fires have increased this year.
But you budget that income as well.
It's money that's there that we budget in case we need to
The
utilize it.
correct answer is yes, Chief.
No, it's not.
Is it true that the average pension for this year per employee in the El Dorado Hills Fire Department will cost us just under $43,000?
That sounds about right.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe we take one more question?
My name is Pete Boy. I'm an ex-firefighter, volunteer, served with the El Dorado Hills Fire Department. They're a great group of guys. Great. Everybody's doing what they're supposed to, except the board. The board is kind of writing a blank check for the last number of years, and that's a problem. We're not, we don't want to argue to death the grand jury report. Our information we gathered independently, and I believe it's correct. But let's just take one real simple equation. Using your